Grace and peace. Welcome to another episode of the TBT Show. I'm Anthony Moten, my friend and brother and partner in crime. Is always the right Reverend Shawn P. Aguilar. Thank you for joining us. Happy to have you guys another week. We would ask Shawn how he's doing.
But you already know.
But he's going to respond better than I deserve.
Better than I
Which is stolen,
deserve.
by the way. Did I tell you that?
Huh?
It's stolen, by the way.
Well, where'd he steal it from?
No, I stole it.
Oh, you stole it.
So I don't know who you stole it from, but I stole it from you.
Nothing new under the sun. Go ahead.
Man, we're excited about being with you guys another week. And so we'll jump into some of the stuff that we have for today. Some I just can't wait to hear Shawn's thought behind. But the first one, is crazy, but it's true. So we got to address it. Yeah. Someone that I kind of look to his ministry. He's been set the standard as far as ministry is concerned. A pastor by the name of Matt Chandler.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been asked. Well, did they set a parameter as far as how long?
Indefinite.
No, indefinite?
Indefinite because, and let's just go over, kind of the circumstances surrounding, and then we can get into the response. But Matt Chandler, who is in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, a national pastor, preacher, Village voice Church. Of the Village Church, and also he's the president of Acts 29. Right. Which is a parachurch ministry. And he, on a couple Sundays ago, confessed in front of the congregation that he was involved in what he stated was an unguarded and unwise relationship with a woman that was not his wife. This is Matt Chandler's description. He was preceded by one of the other elders at the church to kind of address it, but he did address it himself. And the pastoral scandal, this is not anything that is new. We've seen scandals from different people in terms. What's different about this one?
Please get to the different.
What's different about this one is, number one, the elder that spoke before him and Matt Chandler speaking for himself. It was so vague, we can't tell what actually happened.
Yeah.
In terms of what did he do that warrants him stepping not down, but aside. In terms of preaching and teaching ministry at the Village Church. And so I feel like that's a misstep.
Yeah.
When you come out to confess to something or air out that, hey, this happened, I think you need to have a certain level of specificity.
Right. And it's necessary because I'll say, for those that aren't aware, this relationship was that he had with this online relationship with this woman that he said was unwise and unguarded.
Right.
Was not a romantic sexual relationship.
Not romantic I was getting to that part, but thank you for that. Not romantic, not sexual, plus his wife and her husband were aware of them communicating.
So what was the because now that just sounds like a golfing buddy. Like, what I'm saying? Not golf, but,
But yeah.
So what about that relationship warranted the church or church leadership asking him to step aside?
Well, I mean, you got to look at the type of church that we're dealing with here. Okay. You're in Dallas-Fort Worth. You're in the Bible Belt. All right. And you have... And just to back up a little bit, what began the whole issue in terms of why this needed to be addressed, or that this was something to be addressed in the first place, was not a complaint on behalf of the lady,
anybody's spouse
that Matt Chandler was communicating with, nor was it at the request of her spouse.
Right. Okay.
But it was,
and not his spouse.
Okay. So his wife doesn't have a problem.
Right.
He doesn't have a problem.
Right.
The other lady doesn't have a problem.
Okay.
And the lady's husband doesn't have a problem.
Okay.
Nobody has a problem except for the lady's female friend. Or actually, I'm not sure if it's a female friend or not, but there's a friend of the other lady,
right,
that approaches Matt Chandler in the lobby.
Okay.
And says, "Hey, I know that you have had these communications, and I feel like this is inappropriate communication as a pastor." Now watch this. It's not the pastor. It's not the person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's neither one of their spouses. But it's a friend of the friend.
Who was in church leadership, or she just
in the pews.
See, here's
a member.
So here's my frustration. Because again, and I'm not trying to, this is not the the blue wall of silence or whatever, and I'm not trying to stick up for him because he's a pastor. But if it wasn't romantic and it wasn't sexual, and my wife doesn't have a problem with it, her husband doesn't have a problem with it, I don't have a problem with it, she doesn't have a problem with it, but a random member feels like it's inappropriate, by what standards? Who knows? Because I'm trying to, if it wasn't romantic or sexual, how is it inappropriate?
So what was referenced was coarse jesting. So some
jokes?
Joking. Right. Coarse jesting. And there was another pastor who has a conference that came out in support of Matt Chandler and said, "Hey, look, I'm having this conference. He was invited. He is still invited and expected to be at such and such conference." Mm-hmm. And he shed some light that it was something that may have been related to alcohol. So the joking was related to alcohol, drinking, or something of that nature. So is it unwise? Yeah. Is it unguarded? Yeah. Is it? I'm looking for a definitive sin here.
So you think it was unwise?
Here's my deal.
I'm gregarious. I joke about everything.
I get all that. But also at the same time, you've got to be careful who is around when you take off your armor. Does that make sense?
It does, but so joking is taking off armor? I mean, I get it. Like, we all live in our skin.
Right.
And I'm not tripping with any pastor.
Right.
Live in your skin. I would suggest you do so.
Right.
But joking, I wouldn't consider it exposing or taking off armor. It's joking.
I get that. But the thing is that obviously it didn't stay private. This is what I'm talking about. How would this other person know of the communication unless the lady that's not Matt Chandler's wife told her or him?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right.
So again, loose lips sink ships.
Okay. So here's my question. Whatever they were joking about,
mm-hmm.
He obviously didn't take it to be serious enough, because as a pastor, like whatever you say could become a public moment.
Can and will be used against you in a court of law or public opinion.
Right. What do you want it to be?
Right.
So like there are times where I say stuff, but like whatever I say, I'll repeat, because if it's funny, it's funny. Like I'm not,
Agreed.
So here's my issue, and then because I definitely
have several.
Yeah. Okay.
I have several issues, but go ahead.
I think sometimes culturally, and I don't want to get into that because I don't want those emails, but cultures see things differently.
Yes.
So in a African American church,
this would never happen.
Never.
This would never happen.
Never.
And I was getting to that, but to quote, Charlemagne, the Hellmans is heavy on this one. There's a double dollar per dukes. You see what I'm saying? And so you would not see this
ever
in a melanated congregation because it's a non-issue. You see what I'm saying? And this is what I was kind of going towards, is that sometimes, and you've heard this phrase, we've all heard it in the black church, you've heard this phrase. Sometimes you can be so heavenly minded,
no earthly good,
that you're no earthly good. And in some of our churches, okay, there's a hyper sensitivity. Now, take into account, Matt Chandler took over Acts 29. President before him was also wrapped up in the scandal. Mark Driscoll.
Really? I don't.
Well, yeah, I want to say he was the founder, because really? Matt Chandler is if my understanding is the second president,
right,
of Acts 29. And so, and not only.
So is that us just looking for a scandal?
Here's the deal, man. This has Karen written all over it. For this,
mind your business.
This is Karen with a capital K. In my opinion. And then the problem is that now once it's out, it has to be addressed. It has to be addressed, because then it's a problem if you don't address it, and then it now comes out as a surprise and you're not ahead of it. Does that make sense?
Okay.
That's why they hired a law firm to go, oh yeah, you didn't know that part? Oh yeah, let me go ahead and put this up. So Matt Chandler gets ambushed in the lobby, and at first he's like,
okay,
what was the name of that movie with Martin Lawrence? National Security?
Yeah.
Where the problem is?
What the problem is.
What the problem is. So Matt Chandler first is confronted in the vestibule. You see what I'm saying? In the lobby.
In the foyer.
And it's like, okay, I hear you. Okay. What the problem is. And so, but then he goes and thinks about it, and it's like, man, so now he starts second guessing himself. And this is, from, the article, that we're, coming from is on julieroys.com. And, according to that, he went, as he should, and I think this is good practice, he went to the elders and said, hey, look, man, help me understand, this is a situation. And then they say, okay, well, as the elder board, they commissioned an independent law firm to review Chandler's messaging history on social media platforms, his cell phone, and his email.
Wait, so they dug up all this man's private communications?
All of it.
See, that's when it just begins to be a little bit too much.
Watch this. The investigation found that Chandler had violated TVC's, the Village Church, social media use policies, and failed to meet the 1 Timothy standard for elders of being above reproach in this instance. The statement said the frequency and familiarity of the messages crossed a line and also included language that is not appropriate for a pastor. Your boy, Matthew, what's his name? The cousin pastor. He would be upset.
In Memphis.
Yeah, in Memphis.
Yeah.
And so,
my dude.
The mouth of the South. And so Chandler's behavior did not rise to the level of disqualification. So they don't want to say that he's disqualified as pastor, because they said, well, in this one instance, he was not above reproach, and that his leave of absence, again, which is indefinite, from preaching and teaching, is both disciplinary and developmental. And the timeline for his return will be dictated by the expectations of the elders that they've laid out for his development. So this is an indefinite suspension if you want to call that. You can call leave of absence. You can call it sitting them down. You can call it stepping aside. At the end of the day, this dude is in school suspension. He's showing up to church, but you can't preach, you can't teach until we say you can.
And I'm gonna read this section of this comment that he makes, and I almost want to throw up, man. This is crazy. And so, in their grace to me and my family, they've decided, and again, I think they're right, to put me on a leave of absence. A local preacher just said not too long ago, and again, I listen to everybody, so you know. So a local preacher that I don't necessarily listen to all the time said something that just rung true to me. He said that often the grace that's extended from the pulpit
is not the
same grace that's extended to the pulpit.
Correct.
Now, again, I don't see anything wrong with his communication.
Well, here's the deal. We don't know what the communication is.
We know enough.
No. I'm not saying we don't. I'm not saying we don't know enough.
Right.
What I'm saying is I was just in terms of the hypersensitivity, I think would be headed off if you just put the message out there.
Right. What
you can blot out the name, you can blot out all different stuff, but it's like, hey, if you take issue, name it and claim it. What exactly
do you take issue with?
Do you take issue with?
So,
because they're trying to be vague enough to where they don't have to say what happened.
Right. But clear enough to suspend him. See, See, I don't, because again.
And this is a situation where, not doctrinally, but you have a mist in the pulpit and you have a fog in the pews because you're not being clear about what happened.
So, was it a joke, including the cuss word? But like, who in the big scheme of life, who cares?
All are falling short.
Yeah, like,
so do you think that now all of a sudden he's not going to be a natural preacher voice because Matt Chandler cussed?
So and if he cussed in his communication on whatever it was, he didn't say it, he typed it. And if he know, like I know, sometimes you might just say it and be done with it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
My thing is like, we're so heavy-handed. And I'm not trying to say that preachers or pastors shouldn't be held to a higher standard.
They should be. 100%.
We should be. But when it comes to what he did wasn't immoral. It was like what's the point? So and here's the juxtapose, right? And I hate to bring a name up, but I have to
make it make sense.
Make the picture. So you'll charge him up and suspend him for for having inappropriate conversation on a social media platform that wasn't sexual or romantic. What that communication could have been, like, who knows?
Right.
But then somebody like New Birth in Atlanta.
Right.
Eddie Long.
Right. You put a cape and a crown on this guy and he messed with little boys.
But like, and I don't get it. But and again, like, that's what's wrong. That's why this generation doesn't go to church. That's what's wrong when church parishioners try to become God.
But you see, there's a problem on both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, it's heavy-handed on here, on this side, here, and not heavy-handed enough on this side.
Right.
I get it. Yeah. I mean, I get it, and I hate to bring that up.
And that's why I said it. This would never happen in a black church.
Yeah. No, I get it.
What? What's the problem?
And Bishop Long did a lot of great stuff. Before I get that email, he did a lot of great stuff. I listened to him, followed his ministry, and a lot of things I incorporated from the stuff he did.
But, here's the thing is that people need to realize that good people can make mistakes and still, we should still respect the good things that they did.
Bro.
So like B. Simone made a comment and we never addressed it.
Yeah.
But just in passing, B. Simone made a comment about the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King.
Yeah. Yeah.
And basically said that he was not great.
Yeah. Because
he cheated on his wife.
Right.
Like completely negated
everything he did.
Everything he did.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that, hey, because Martin Luther King cheated on his wife, you can cheat on your wife and it's okay. It's not okay, but it doesn't erase
what he did. Hey, look.
Everything that he did.
Here's the public service announcement. There is some good in the worst of us and some bad in the best of us.
The more you know. Boom. No, I hear you.
Bro, I just don't get it. So if his wife didn't have an issue with it,
right?
If her husband didn't have an issue with it, if he didn't have an issue with it and she didn't have an issue with it, the church leadership should have told whoever it was, go mind your business.
But here's where it comes, and this is where the difference and the setting makes an impact, because in their type of church context, you tell somebody that, and they go to the Dallas Morning News or whoever and say, hey, I have evidence, or I have it on good authority, that Pastor Matt Chandler is involved with, a relationship with a woman outside his marriage, and da-da-da-da. Now, if it makes Dallas Morning News before he comes out and addresses it on a Sunday morning, big problem. Because now it's like, oh, they're hiding something. So, you see what I'm saying? So it's a political,
better for him,
but it's a political calculation. Would have been what would have been better? What would have been better is to just be specific about what happened, state it and relate it, and sit down. And say exactly what happened, because you create more questions than you're giving answers.
Right.
When you try to do this vagueness here, because you don't want to be specific about what you did. If you truly felt like what you did was wrong, you would call it out and say, this is what I did wrong.
So again, this is not church discipline. This is foolishness. This is foolishness.
I don't think it was handled well. I'll go definitely that this was not. They're trying to handle it in the vein and the process of church discipline. I don't agree with how they handled it. I don't agree with how Matt Chandler handled it. Like, I think that, and I think part of but I think that Matt Chandler felt handcuffed because he's the offending party.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So he's beholden to the church, to the elder board, and then also Acts 29 board is like, hey, you can calm down preaching and teaching at any Acts 29 events. So he's the pastor of a church where he can't preach, and he's a president of an organization where he can't preach. And they don't want him to step down or step out.
Right, because I think they're afraid that if he steps out, he'll create a whole nother vacuum, and people will follow him.
Right,
because this is crazy.
Right. So it's like, we don't want you to go away. We just want you out the spotlight.
Philip Yancey wrote in his book, What's So Amazing About Grace, that in his life journeys, he had left the church because he saw so little grace, shown there. And that's what this is, man. That's what the picture, that's what this is.
Yeah. Very Pharisaic.
I would even go as far as to say, even if their community, now, again, it was not sexual, it was not romantic.
Right.
But even if it was, it's just communication. It's not physical.
Right.
The fact that it wasn't, and you're still pushing it, that's just crazy.
Yeah. Like, and I'm praying for the church, praying for Matt Chandler, because I know he, has to be just terribly disappointed in himself, embarrassed.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, it's embarrassing to the church, it's embarrassing, to his family, to his wife.
And he might as well step down, because some people will never see him as.
Well, and the thing is, on the side of the spectrum of ministry that he's in, it's usually very difficult to recover from what this would be categorized by some as a moral failing.
Right.
Very difficult.
Right.
On the other side, easy, no problem. Hey,
we believe in restoration, right?
Hey, bam. You know what I'm saying? You can mess up on Monday, next Sunday, you got a whole nother church, whole nother location.
We believe in restoration.
Yeah.
And I'm not, because I believe in restoration.
I believe in restoration. I believe in restoration as well.
Walls could talk.
Yeah. I believe in it as well. I also believe in accountability. And I feel like, again, like you said, heavy-handed. like this is so heavenly minded that they're no earthly good.
Mm-hmm.
And it could have been handled better. At the very least, I think anybody should be able to concede and agree with the statement that this could have been handled better, all across the board. And I feel really safe saying that. And you know, if you feel differently, well, we welcome your comments.
Right. I know you're not gonna. Shawn's going to stop at this could have been handled better.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, I'm probably a little bit more extreme.
Mm-hmm.
This is foolishness. It's ridiculous. This is crazy. This makes no sense at all. So how do you win a world that God will forgive you for any misstep you've made?
Except for your DMs. No grace in the DMs.
This is crazy. This is crazy. And this is the picture that we want this generation to embrace about church, and it's not going to happen. This is crazy.
So, and I'm glad you brought that up, because so now let's say someone is convicted of their sin. They haven't joined the church yet, but there's a tug on their heart to seek the things of God that I need to go to church. I need to go to church. They see this the Sunday before they're going to go to church,
and they're not going to go.
Does that make sense? Because it's like, wait a minute. If the pastor is put out for the DMs, shoot, what I done. You know what I'm saying?
The biggest personality in the church being expelled, suspended for the smallest, most minute something. I'm the smallest personality, which seems like my stuff is not minute, it's huge.
Mm-hmm.
No, they're not going to come, and rightfully so. And the church can't blame the world for the church being empty. The church is empty because it's not the woodpeckers on the outside.
Yeah.
It's the termites on the inside. We're eating at the very core of the things that we believe. So if you believe God forgives sin, but not that sin,
right?
If you consider it to be a sin,
yeah. I'll just wrap it up with this, and we can move on to our next segment. Is that I'm not saying that his behavior should be excused. It should be explained.
We don't even know what it was.
That's why I said it should be explained. It should not be excused. Obviously, he feels like he did do something wrong. Does that make sense?
He does.
Now, whether or not you agree with the validity of his perception of wrongness, that's on his conscience. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like we shouldn't excuse it, but it should be explained, because this is a teachable moment to the congregation.
Right.
Of an opportunity for grace to be shown, an opportunity for accountability to be shown. But I think this was really heavy-handed, and is not. I feel like it comes short of demonstrating the character of God.
So I'll throw this out, and we can chase it another time.
Yeah.
I think this is what makes pastors celebrities.
Mm.
Your pastor on a Friday night is not taking the text. He's human.
Yeah.
He's laughing at a joke.
Yeah.
He's sending a joke.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably the same stuff that make, and so when we view them as, we in our culture, we love to say the man of God.
Mm-hmm. GAWD.
But it starts with a man.
Yeah.
He's a man, and he has the same stuff flying through his head, the same stuff that makes you laugh and makes him laugh. The same stuff that you like to see. He like
we're all earthen vessels and crack pots.
Bro,
this
is crazy.
I mean, and again, it's not to excuse it, but I feel like they missed an opportunity to explain that, hey, here's the flaw of humanity, but here's where grace is available,
right?
And this is how we're going to move forward. Because here's the deal: lest we forget, I don't think anybody is signing up for a live stream of a live screen recording of their cell phone 24/7.
Right. And even if you're good on that, and you may be good in some other areas, there are areas of struggle.
Everybody has areas of struggle.
Nobody hits their toe on the way to the bathroom at night against the bed and screams out, "Nearer my God to thee." Bro, it just don't happen. Like the pastor, the deacon, like it just. So I think sometimes we're like, when we're not able to forgive the slightest, most simplest infractions, it says that there's something about us.
Well, what it is that it's less about the individual and more about the impact on the institution.
Then that's the problem.
I feel like more of this was the impact on the potential impact
on the TVC
on the institution of the Village Church, and how do we insulate the institution from the actions of the individual.
Okay, so we're gonna move, but that's even more an indictment. That's because it says the institution is being held up by a human man.
Correct.
And that's impossible, because anything that's held up by humanity is going to fall.
Going to fall.
We're not a perfect, and I'll say it every Sunday, we're not a perfect church. We don't have a perfect pastor, but we're connected to a perfect God.
There you go.
And if the institution stands on anything other than the perfect God, it's going to fall. It's going to fall.
Yeah.
I don't.
And that's another thing that I felt was missed.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of, this is an opportunity to not excuse but explain, and explain not just what happened, but what should we do in light of that, in light of the Word of God.
Right. Lunacy, madness. This is crazy. This is a sad indictment, not just on this church.
No,
but I think,
it's just a microcosm. It's just a microcosm.
Right.
And then you also, now I gotta say one more thing.
Yeah.
And now, what happens is this emboldens and encourages the gotcha ministry.
Right. Absolutely. So in the pews, you have emboldened and encouraged the Karens.
Yeah, the gotcha ministry.
Is it?
Oh, did you hear?
The pastor look. The pastor looking at her.
Mm-hmm. You know why she wore that? You know what I'm saying? All this different stuff, and so now it's gotcha for the members, those in ministry, everything, because look at how they responded. Because it's not the person. I mean, is. The person that should be offended is not saying that they're offended.
Is not.
And then as the next level would be the spouses thereof.
That are not offended.
They're not offended.
I would be interested to see what this communication was.
You know.
I bet you it was just.
You know, it's kind of like this situation here is kind of like, you know, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? The world may never know.
This is crazy.
The world may never know.
Wow.
Well, we talked about, you know, one situation where we did not have enough revealed, and then now in this next segment, too much was revealed. A woman who wore a sheer dress to a musical concert in Rwanda faces 2 years of imprisonment. Wow.
Hey, look, I've seen images of what she had on that night. Was it revealing? Yes. You know,
it's a full revelation.
It's the beginning and the end.
Yeah, not much left
to the imagination. But 2 years, and I guess, you know, culture is everything, so you never know what, you know, their culture context is, whatever. But
it's very conservative.
Yeah. I mean, obviously,
very conservative.
Obviously, man. A couple of days ago, I had the opportunity to I'm saying a couple of days ago. It's probably been a week or so ago now. I had the opportunity to go to brunch spot in Houston. I'm not gonna say the name, but you know, very little, you know, chill spot. I was getting ready for, you know, long Sunday morning. I'm like, let me decompress before Sunday, whatever, and went out lunch, whatever. And what she had on this night,
nothing, Nathan Nada.
It would have made it in
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No problem.
And again, and that's why, I kind of look at different, like, it's the culture of the,
And that's why I wanted to bring this into the space, is to highlight the contrast between American culture and this African country. Does that make sense? Is because here you're getting in trouble for not dressing modestly. Whereas, in America, regardless of your age, your stage, your shape, nothing, you can wear whatever you want, wherever you want, whenever you want. It's anything goes.
Yeah.
But there are some cultures and contexts where you're not going to just go around any kind of way.
2 years is kind of harsh, but again.
So the head of state over there is quite strict. They have an election every 7 years. And I want to say this guy has been here quite a while. And it's because of the regime that you have there in terms of government, that you have this heavy-handed sentence. So culture, politics, all these things contribute to having an environment where this is possible.
Right. And then now, seeing this has for me better explain some things, right? So they view women a certain way in countries like Rwanda. And we view women a certain way in America. And maybe it is because, and I wouldn't say solely because of dress or, whatever, but I'm sure that has, or maybe the dress is a picture of how, we're viewed. So again, man, for what she had on, it would have been regular club attire in certain spots in Houston.
Yeah, major city, any major city. Yeah. In the United States, but the president of Rwanda is Paul Kagame, and he's a former military officer, so it gives you an idea. A little bit of some of the, and I'm not saying this guy's a great guy. He's definitely got some questionable things in his background. But they're not playing that, and so what I'm interested is that the culture that is concerned with enforcing the modesty of its women, some people would argue that women are being oppressed, there, and then here, that. That women are more free, but is that necessarily in terms of not having some expectation, some modicum? Does that make sense? Right. Is that better? See, just because you have more liberality,
right?
Is that better?
And I think that's what it is. It's just finding for whatever your cultural context is, finding that line of, constraint and liberty, right?
Yeah.
And I, again, I listen. If you have certain dress codes in certain vacuums and spaces, that's fine. You don't want to adhere to those. You're always free to go somewhere else where they don't have.
Right.
Those dress codes, and again, I can't tell you what to put on your body. You know how I look. You looked in the mirror. You know what I'm saying. And as a culture, we have those liberties. And so, again, whether, deem right, wrong, for me, it was just, it made me, buck my eyes because it's just different, so different.
Right.
And so to make some connection as to how they view their women, maybe it's because, maybe they view them like that because there is that restriction. Maybe there's a restriction because of how they view them. And maybe over here we're more liberal about how we, view women. So there's not this, that is a liberal dress. But again, that causes that to see things differently.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So like, this woman in America dressed like this would be approached by some guy being crass and, not chivalrous. But then
Correct.
That's the expectation when the dress is, is that. And so it's just not, I'm not saying it's right or wrong for a man to approach a woman, but that kind of dress lends itself to it. And so.
Right. I mean, you can say you're not playing on that team, but you're wearing that uniform. Dave Chappelle. So I'm just saying, you're inviting that type of attention, which that doesn't make it right. For that attention to come your way, but also at the same time, you're not doing anything to avoid it either.
Right.
So a former justice minister in the country said this: the current issue of our young men and women who drink and drug themselves unconscious appear in public literally naked is objectionable. I support the efforts of the leaders, RNP, parents, youth, media, etc., to address it. He tweeted that out in support of the of her being found guilty of public indecency.
Yeah,
that is the actual legal charge.
Yeah.
So you definitely have some people that are supporting this.
Yeah.
In that culture, in that context, outside of that culture, in that context, because modesty just seems to be by the wayside.
And I'm sure that, and again, even here, there would be people that would defend it, and then people would that would, go against it. It's just, it's, and that's why, and American citizen, you gotta, live by liberty. Everyone can, wear what they want to wear. Now, I've seen some people like, he shouldn't have wore that. She shouldn't have wore that. But again, you can,
Well, here's the thing: is that there's certain things that are subjective and certain things that are objective.
Right.
This particular, she went to a musical concert.
Right.
So we got to take into account the setting where this happened. But if you go to a concert, this is a public place. So you have families.
Because it's a concert, family friendly. Right?
Family friendly.
Right.
So all things may be lawful, but not all things are profitable.
Right.
So was it wise, unwise, unguarded? We just got off that. Was it wise? Now, you want to throw a private party?
Sure.
It's your party. You can cry if you want to.
Yeah.
Do what you want to do.
Right.
But when you're going out in public, you need to take into account that you are affecting other people, even in the way of just your presence and how you appear and present yourself.
Right.
Because should parents have to avert their eyes of the 12-year-old boy whose eyes are popping out of his head?
I paid to be here. Right. Or for me to explain to him what he just saw.
Or to their young daughter.
Right. Who wants to be
mommy, mom. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I want to dress like that.
And look at our culture, though. And that's our culture. And then, so generations from now, when the 12-year-old is now 24, and she's pushing the envelope, there's another 12-year-old who looks at her.
I got to go further than that.
And then I
got to turn it up. If you're at 5, I got to be at 6. And the next one is 6, you got to go to 7. You got to turn the volume up.
And then we look up and you're in 2022.
Yeah.
And it's...
And here we are.
Right. Anything goes.
Yeah.
And that,
And no matter where you go, there you are.
Right.
So, it's something that I think that that there is something to be said about modesty, decorum, especially when you're going into the public forum.
Right.
And there are things that are wise, things that are unwise, and just take into account the setting that you're going into.
Right. Right.
So, yes, sir. So, indecent exposure.
Well, yeah, again, I guess decency is in the eye of the beholder, because she obviously thought she was decent. Other people thought she was not.
How do you? Well, are you sure you're not making an assumption that she thought she was decent?
She wore it,
but that doesn't mean she thought it was decent. She wore it because that's what she wanted to wear. There's a difference. So she could have known full well that, hey, this isn't decent, but I can, so I will. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Because I want to attract attention to myself.
And end up with 2 years.
And you got exactly what you went out for. Attention. You went out to get attention, and you got all of it. You got all the attention. You got a lot of people's attention.
Probably too many people.
Too many people's attention. But hey, you got what you went out to get. Congratulations. Problem is that now that you got a hold of it, you don't like the taste of it.
Right.
Right. Now it's got a hold of you.
Right.
You know, but play silly games, win silly prizes.
Right. Well, speaking of attention,
yeah,
there's a movie presentation that has garnered a lot of attention.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what was that, Sunday? Sunday? No, I take it back. It was Monday, Labor Day. Nothing was going on. I said, man, I'm gonna sit down and watch it. And the beginning of it.
Oh, you did actually see it?
I know. They showed in the trailer. They showed a clip of him saying,
yeah. I saw the trailer.
The movie is Honk for Jesus.
Honk for Jesus, yeah.
They showed a clip of him saying, what did he say? Something about, I'm a pastor. My wife is fine, and I got he mentioned the car, or something. And I watched that part, and I was like, I'm not watching this.
Right.
Like, I'd rather watch paint dry or grass grow or something. Like, I'll find something better to do. But I've been seeing nothing but negative comments, about the movie, and some people have gone as far as to call it a mockery of ministry.
It is a mockery of ministry.
You've seen it?
I've seen from the trailer. I haven't seen the full length feature.
Okay.
But just from what I gathered, this is a cinematic mocking of ministry.
And I guess, and even to the people that have seen it, and I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna watch as much of it as I can. But even to the people that have seen it, this is not our first time seeing something like this.
Right.
So there was this show, and I would hate to throw Tyler Perry, and I don't know if he was a part of it or not. Was he a part of did he produce Greenleaf? I don't know if he was a part of it. I do know it was on OWN.
It was on OWN. It was on OWN. I'm not sure if he was involved.
Yeah. Which could have been mockery. There's another, I can't even think of the movie that I saw where the pastor was doing everything he wanted to do, ended up, and I think it was a TV show, and I got pulled into it. Erica always makes me watch the corniest stuff ever. And at the end of the season, and I guess it was a show because it was the end of the season or something, like he offs himself in the pulpit or something. He had just done that much that he's just like, I can't keep living.
I didn't see that
one. And I can't think of the name of it. I'm gonna look it up and send it to you later. Mm-hmm. So again, this isn't the first that we've seen of, ministry mockery or church mockery.
Right.
Here's why they make this kind of stuff.
Right.
Because it does well. Mm-hmm. It does well. And it does well because this generation.
But usually, in movies where you have a pastor, most of the time they're shown to be in a decent light. I think this is a turn, unless it's well. Think about it.
Have you seen Greenleaf?
That's Greenleaf.
Okay.
You know, and I get that. You know, but I'm talking about movies.
Okay.
Movies. Most of the time, you see what I'm saying? It's either one or the other. You see, you have the faithful small time pastor, or you got the pulpit pimp. You see what I'm saying? But in the ones, this one seems like you're trying to show someone that is portraying themselves to be faithful to the audience, to the masses, and then really not behind. Most of the time, it's all or nothing. You know, this dude's bad, and you know this guy's good. You know, this is trying to show more of the shades of gray type of situation and make fun of, you know, send up the mega church culture,
right? You
know, which there's plenty.
Near real life,
right. There's plenty there, but you know, I don't know. It has a different feel to it. To me, you know, I just think of some of the portrayals in the past, you know, from television and from movies. You know, what's the show where Snoop Dogg's a preacher? BMF. You seen this? You know what it is.
Right.
He's portrayed very clearly.
Right.
As to what type of preacher pastor.
Right.
He is.
Right.
And when you see Snoop Dogg come on the screen, you know this isn't an accurate portrayal.
It's not.
Not that it's not well acted, but what I'm saying is that you know that's not the preacher around the corner is not like this.
See, here's the danger. Because art imitates life.
Correct.
And someone's going to say, this is how they rock. I remember thinking a few years ago, man, I'm saying a few years ago, and probably wasn't even that long ago, there was a short series of Aretha Franklin's life.
Okay.
I don't know, it's about 6, 4 or 5 seasons of, some shows, whatever. And it painted her father to be reckless at best. And I don't know if that was an accurate depiction of who but of course, coming up in the day, I'm thinking like C.L. Franklin. All we ever knew was like his preaching. And so like to see some of his, life qualities and life characters, just art imitates life, and somebody's going to walk away going, this is how the preacher rocks. And, that could be farther from the truth. Like everybody's not a Lamar Miller Whitehead. Everybody's not a, is fussing at people about, Movados. Everybody's not that, And so again, it's just, it pushes us even farther into thinking that the preacher pastor is this polarizing figure that only wants, your money so he can live a certain standard. And doesn't care about people, and that's not the case. And so, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I just couldn't sit there and watch it, because it's almost like no doctor wants to see a movie about some doctor who's running around doing malpractice, whatever. It's
right.
It's irritating, because I know most of pastors I know are not like that. So even the ones that pastor mega churches,
right.
Don't
not all of them. Not just because they have a significant numerical increase. That doesn't mean that automatically
they're
like not a genuine right.
So again, it was I'm going to we can readdress it. Give me a couple weeks to stomach.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, and, we can circle back around.
Yeah, and I'll give some more details. But everything that I've seen on Instagram and Facebook, even from friends and connections that have watched it, they're like, "Oh my God, this is the worst." So, and then I wasn't encouraged to watch it because of that. But I think I am going to sit down and watch it just so I can give some decent commentary.
Yeah, and being that this is set in Atlanta, Georgia, connections have been made to who this may be loosely might be based on.
Right.
You know, so that's another element to it as well.
And I think he says a couple things about, you know, some stuff that could be connected. You know.
Yeah, but once we see the full length feature, you know, I plan on watching. I just haven't, you know, had the time, but just based on and also I don't think it's widely distributed yet. You know, in terms of theaters, I think it's on Peacock, or it has some type of so in terms of streaming, and then it is actually out in theaters now, and so or you know, via select streaming services. So we'd like to hear, you know, and put your comments in with your thoughts on the share with the community, your, you know, in the comments section, your thoughts on this movie.
Right.
You know, do you think it helps? Do you think it hurts?
Right. Help us, because if you've watched it, and then give us some, you know, some highlights or bad points, or, you know, or maybe the whole thing is just bad. Yeah. You know, so
we'll circle back around.
Yeah. Please share your comments concerning it.